So you want to be a Pokemon spriter. Cool, the more the merrier, I say. From Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal version, 2nd gen sprites stand out in several ways. They have a 4-color, highly saturated palette, distinctive shading techniques, and, inaccuracies. Having done this style of sprites for about 4 years, I, Substitube, finally feel ready to pass on my techniques to you, the aspiring retro spriter. This power I grant you should not be taken lightly. Your tutelage begins now. As a wise man once said, to break outside the box, you must first locate its walls. Before any pixel art can begin, we must first understand the core of Gen 2 sprites. More specifically, what actions are we limited to so that our sprites turn out like their sprites? First and foremost is the size. All Gen 2 sprites are confined to a square, size 40 by 40 pixels for smaller basic Pokemon, cute mythical legendaries, and babies, 48 by 48 for more complex basic stages, and a good amount of stage 1 and stage 2 evolutions, and 56 by 56 reserved for final starters, legendaries, and the largest, most complex designs. On the other hand, only 4 colors are allowed per sprite. 1 lighter, 1 darker, 1 white, 1 black. That leaves us with these fundamental components: black line work, white, color 1, color 2, and lighting and shading. Together, they form a Gen 2 sprite. As a practitioner of Gen 2 Sprite Fu, you'll need some resources at your disposal. Resource 1. Reference material. Have a design or sketch handy. You'll need references to base off of, unless you plan to do pixel art completely from scratch. This is an example I had for another project. If you want to design an original Pokemon, try looking at my guide on how to make FAKEMON first. Then, choose your second and most important resource: a drawing program. My go-to program is MS Paint, since it loads fast, is easy to use, and is pre-installed on most computers. The tools it has available are simplistic but effective. Here, I'll put together a little demonstration for you. Show me Color Editor. Select your colors, color 1 and color 2. For standard pixel placement, show me Pencil. Left click to use color 1, right click color 2. To fill in colors, show me Paint Bucket. Left color 1, right color 2. Need boxes for sprite boundaries? Shape tool. Left color 1, right color 2. Shift click to keep the aspect ratio a square. To select, show me the Select tool. Use Freeform Select tool for isolated parts. Show me Color Sampler. Left click to sample color 1, right click sample color 2. Perhaps the most interesting tool is the eraser. Left click the eraser for erasing, uses whatever color 2 is. Right click the eraser for color replacement. Choose color 1, the target color, and then color 2, the replacement color, and hold right to replace. If this is your program of choice, feel free to pause the video and practice on your own. Though this is my most often used program,
there is another.
If you feel like you need something more advanced, GIMP is a free Photoshop alternative. I'll spare you the extraness this time, cause it saves me a whole lot on editing. So GIMP, it takes much longer to load, but its features generally outclass Paint in every way. Layers allow you to trace over images if necessary, and edit components individually without overwriting the data of anything underneath. You can also toggle visibility. The pencil and eraser work pretty much as you would expect. One places the pixels, and then one removes them. For the tool options, however, you'll have to change the brush style to pixel. The Path tool is for curves and general tracing. You get clean curves that way, and you turn off smooth stroke if you want just the bare pixels. The Wand tool helps create transparency. The Scaling tool helps scale. GIMP also makes adjusting colors easy too with a color picker, which selects all instances of one color, allowing you to either erase or replace with ease using GIMP's other tools. With the program of choice selected, finally begin a new project. Since the program I use most often is MS Paint, it will be this lesson's focal point. In Paint, I give myself plenty of room and make a 1 pixel thick containing square. Its dimensions are 2 plus whatever your actual sprite size will be, and since I'm doing 56 by 56, the containing square would be 58 by 58. The added 2 pixels account for the extra pixels added by your border. Well then, now begins the real spriting portion of your training, the heart of Sprite Foo. You may have a design ready, my student, but before another pixel is laid down, consider the following. You want to stop your sprites from appearing flat or bland. That begins with the pose, which I plan before any line work begins. An exciting pose is able to show the full creature without compromising personality, clarity, or a sense of presence. Head size is kept relatively small in order to fit more of the sprite's details into the box. Its attention, the eyes and/or head, focuses down and left to face the opponent as a real combatant should. There are exceptions, of course, usually the derpy ones. Making them face the opponent gives the feeling that they are present and responding to the other Pokemon on the field. For even better results, try making the pose in the middle of an action. The facial expression should match its action in progress. Also, avoid a fully horizontal profile when it comes to angles. Rather than having your Pokemon look like it's standing on a level plane, staring off into the distance, you can view Pokemon from many more interesting angles by adding a slight tilt. Viewing from slightly below, to the side, or above can give you a better sense of motion. Finally, avoid having everything visually the same distance away from you. This is something I struggle with the most. The depth in the foreground and the background help prevent the sprite from looking flat. Having a claw, jaws, or fist seemingly reach out of the screen at you keeps things exciting. When all said and done, I then draft the pose with basic shape blobs and scribbles, preferably in another color. Sometimes though, I just go for it. Think of this step as carving a wooden block. You chip away piece by piece by piece until you have the desired shape. That shape would be your outline. The pose is now chosen. Define the outline. Ideally, line work is not jagged, which mine was when it first started out. With these techniques, it's my hope that your lines become smoother with repeated use. When it comes to line types, straight ones are simpler. Use the same pixel length for each consecutive segment, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, and so on. By consecutive segments, I'm meaning the pixels that are aligned and connected either vertically or horizontally. Think of them as the steps on a staircase. Changes are incremental and rarely jump too drastically in terms of consecutive segments. That's what makes the jagged look. As an alternative, you can also maintain a consistent alternating pattern, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, and so on. For curves, this diagram is much more helpful than any explanation I can give. Take a good look at it for a while and let it sink in. You may proceed to work on the outline of the body one part at a time, using the previous techniques. Make occasional copies of each milestone in case you mess up or want to make changes. Once line work is done, you, my student, must color. Nope, you only get 4. Aside from black and white, only 2 colors can be chosen. You get 1 other bright color and 1 darker. More saturated colors work best, and these I find by sampling existing Gen 2 sprites. Since most Pokemon have more than 2 colors, you'll likely have to simplify it by doing the following. Let's take a look at this example. Looking at your subject, choose the 2 most prominent colors aside from black and white. You should have now picked a 4-color palette. Any color from your design not selected should be substituted with your selected colors. Sub anything not included using the 2 custom colors from your palette first. Shading and highlighting and blending will later fill in the gaps. Then, substitute really dark colors black and really light colors white. All of this gives the illusion that there are more than 4 colors. For my example, I made the dark gray black and picked a reddish orange as a happy medium between the orange flames and the red fur. Making some parts light and some parts dark gives the image more dimension. It also helps blend the colors. Without these, everything once again looks flat. For lighting, there are some techniques that I use. The light source normally is above and left, unless you're something special like Umbreon or Scyther, and highlighting can be done in white, just along the edges, or in an oval shape wherever round. Use your lighter color if applicable to highlight too. As a highlight color, use white sparingly as to not make the image too washed out or overly shiny. You then use your darker color, if applicable, for shading in. What's left is black, which is rarely and seldomly used for shading. Black shading is most often seen inside mouths, if the base color is black, or if the surface is rough, like a rock. If overused, everything else can look dirty. Darkening and lightening aside, there's also blending that should be done. Dithering is a technique of alternating colors in a checkerboard pattern to blend them. It's a versatile technique that, when used correctly, can help you give the illusion of even more colors. Your previous color choices will affect how much blending you do. Again, use sparingly. Colors different in brightness and darkness, but very close in hue, blend typically very easily. Analogous colors, or colors adjacent on the color wheel, moderately blend, while complementary colors don't usually blend at all, but are kept separate as solid blocks of color. If the surface is shiny, avoid blending when it comes to white highlighting and minimize it elsewhere. Your sprite should be looking pretty good by now, but it's still incomplete. Now, my student, for the next lesson. These techniques are reserved for when everything else is in place. In this step, you smooth out the imperfections you made along the way and focus on minute details. With the techniques taught earlier, keep smoothing out the lines. Better define existing details like fingers, stripes, leaves, etc. For fire and smoke, remove any black hues, instead keeping only the colors. Make metallic or glossy surfaces have parallel diagonal white lines with differing widths as highlight for a cool shiny effect. Do the highlighting of glossy hair in an extended W shape if applicable, using either the lighter color or white. Use your darker color to smooth the outline. This is a form of anti-aliasing. Use your darker color to also replace the line work inside the silhouette, especially in areas like the eyes and mouth. Now, perhaps the most difficult technique is shading for a Pokemon with black as their base color. As soon as you fill in your line work with black, all the lines disappear. Before you fill in, try instead to replace the black found inside the silhouette with your darker color. Once you fill in, you should still be able to see your outline. I still struggle with this technique, so I mainly look at Umbreon or Murkrow Sprite as reference. These techniques will hopefully help you conquer front sprites. Don't think you finished yet though. My student, every day has a night. Every coin, another side. Every front sprite has a back sprite. Unlike the sprites that came before, back sprites are all 48 by 48 pixels in size. Relative size to other back sprites is not quite as important. When the official game has a Pikachu towering over a Raikou, yeah, it's not a big deal. Rarely do back sprites show the complete creature, as some parts are always obscured from view. These I call the cutoff points. The right and left hand sides must never be cut off. The cutoff point for very small Pokemon is usually at the feet, if not below, to show the full figure. The cutoff for medium-sized ones is at the waist or lower chest. The cutoff for larger ones is at the shoulders, neck, or head. Angle-wise, you generally see only the back of the head. It's usually the Pokemon with longer snouts that have their eyes showing. In those cases, when eyes are present, make them look up and right at the opponent. Well, my student, I've imparted all my Gen 2 spriting knowledge unto you, the aspiring retro spriter. Go now, and use your newfound skills responsibly. Put a little bit more nostalgia out there in the world. Inspire another artist to be. If you at all have any other questions, be sure to ask me in the comments. If you're an already accomplished spriter and have additional tips, leave those too. That's it for today, folks. This is probably my last tutorial video for a while, but hey, you never know. I might pick up some new skills worthy of teaching one day. Until then, do the usual YouTube stuff and become a subscriber. Until then, adios.